the cell phone was invented, and phone booths disappeared. Once upon a time, there was a kind of place called a record store. People went to the record store when they wanted to buy pieces of music. Then one day, the digital music player was invented, and record stores vanished. Once upon a time, there was a kind of place called a library. People went to the library when they wanted to enjoy a book or do some research. Then one day, the internet was invented. But for this story, the ending hasn't been written yet. Hopefully it never will be. Tonight, I'd like to share with you my hope for why libraries should exist far into the future. For they are centers of information, they enrich our communities, and they have the capacity to grow and change. But first, the Centers for Information. When you walk into a library, it's like you've walked into the middle of a forest. Only instead of being surrounded by trees and shrubs and wildlife, you're instead surrounded by words and stories and ideas. There's something for everyone at a library. Whether you're interested in calligraphy, or the country of Chile, or the character of Curious George, you can find something that piques your interest. There are all sorts of source materials around you. When you walk in, the walls are lined with shelves, packed high with books. There are archives of newspapers and magazines, each one jam-packed with a multitude of articles. There's also atlases and encyclopedias. A library truly is a center for information. Ironically, though, it's that central strength of being a center for information that may be a library's greatest weakness in this day and age. Because now we have the internet. And it too is a center for information, albeit one that some would say is much more convenient. What the internet does, I should say, is it takes all the words and all the pictures housed in a library, the millions upon millions of them, and turns them into digital magic, making them available to anyone, anywhere, at any time, provided that they have an internet-capable device. In that respect, the internet has the advantage on a library. But a library is much more than just a center for information. It's a place that enriches its own community. Just a short walk from where we now sit is the Concord Library, and they regularly host programming, which is one way libraries enrich their communities. Just this week, according to the Concord Library's website, they're putting on computer workshops for people to come in with the help of a tutor and learn how to do computing functions more readily. Also later on this week, there's a financial education workshop for people to develop better money management skills. That's one way a library can enrich its community, through programming. But another way is simply by being accessible. There is no admission ticket required to go to a library. Anyone can just walk in the door, go up to one of the shelves, pull a book off the shelf, go to a desk, open the book up, and enjoy. It's instant, free education. Simple as that. One man echoed this sentiment when he was being interviewed for Public Libraries magazine. He told the interviewer that after high school, he didn't go to college. Instead, he went to the library 2 or 3 times a week for 10 years. After that experience, he later remarked to the interviewer that it was the best education I could ever have hoped to have gotten. That man's name was Ray Bradbury, and he was one of America's greatest novelists. Libraries do enrich their communities. They also have the capacity to change and grow, which is essential in this world in which we all live, in which change is the only constant we've got. So if you can change and adapt, you can survive, unlike record stores and unlike phone booths. Libraries can find a way to stay contemporary. One way they can do that is by embracing the internet. As a student going from elementary school to middle school to high school, I saw this firsthand, even though I only made this connection when I was preparing for this speech. In elementary school, we had a grand total of 3 computers in our library. In middle school, that number jumped to 6 or 7. And we also had internet access at that point. High school, we got up to 12 computers, and in college, we had whole computer labs housed in just one library. By embracing the internet, libraries have continued to be consistent. But they can also think beyond just being a center for information. They can think of ways to go beyond the book. There's a think tank in Colorado called the Da Vinci Institute, and they came up with a list of all these suggestions that libraries can take to still be contemporary. One of them was to create so-called creative spaces. And here's how it could work. Let's say I wanted to learn about calligraphy. I could walk into the library, take a book off the shelf about the subject, read it cover to cover, put it back on the shelf, and then I can go off to one of these creative spaces in which I could take a piece of paper along with a pen and practice what I had learned. Libraries are going beyond the book and continue to invest in their patrons that way. Overall, libraries deserve to be treasured because they are centers for information. They enrich our communities, and they have the capacity to change and grow. Albert Einstein once said that the only thing you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. That sentiment was true when he said it. It's true today, and with any luck, it'll be true in the future. Madam Toastmaster.